Greetings. This short video will cover a couple of common questions that people have asked about this checkbook spreadsheet. Namely, what's the best way to delete some entries, and what if you need to insert some entries in between rows that you already have? How do you do that? There are a couple of ways to handle both of those situations, and we'll look at all of those options. Let's start with inserting some new entries. Let's say, for example, that I have a few transactions that occurred on January 8th, and I'd like to keep this list in order. Well, the first inclination might be to insert a couple of rows in between January 8th and January 9th. And you can do that, but let's see what happens if we, for example, you go up to this insert choice here and tell it that we want to insert a sheet row. Well, it certainly does insert the sheet row, but now we've got this little indicator here letting us know that there's a problem. And if we highlight that, it's letting us know that the cell is inconsistent with the column formula. So what happens? So if we go ahead and put in an entry here, and I'll go ahead and put in an amount, it's not doing the math correctly here because the formula did get out of whack from me inserting a row. Now it is okay to do the insertion that way, but you need to then fix the formulas. So the best way to do that is to click your mouse on one of the balance cells above, and if you get your mouse in just the right spot, it's got to be in that bottom corner so that your cursor turns to the black cross mark. And if I click and hold down and just drag all the way down here, that does correct the formulas. Now, an even better way to do that, and I'm going to do an undo. Another better way to fix formulas is get your mouse in that bottom corner and do a double click. So when I double click right there, that very quickly copies a good formula all the way down the spreadsheet. Okay, so that's one way of inserting entries is to, once again, use the insert choice, insert a row, put your entry in there. But again, because there's now a messed up formula, just, go to a good formula, double click, and it's now got that in there in the right spot. So again, that's one way to insert some rows. Here's another one though that I personally prefer to do. Let's say that I want to have several blank rows here in between January 8th and January 9th. What I'll do is use my mouse and hold down my mouse to highlight all of these entries, and then I'll use the cut feature. So if I do a right click and choose cut, and then I'll position my cursor maybe several rows down, and Excel reminds me to select destination and press enter or choose paste. So if I just hit the enter key, that's has now moved these entries down and created a lot of extra room for me. And the formulas did not get messed up with that method of cutting and pasting. Okay, so that's another way to handle just getting some extra room for some other entries. Let's talk about deleting some rows. What if I have an entry here that it's not it's incorrect, or maybe I duplicated a row? How do I get rid of it? Well, first inclination might be to just delete the entire row. So if my cursor is in that row and I use the delete choice up here and tell it I want to delete that whole row, it does, but oh no, it's now got this ref error and the rest of my formulas are bad. So if I use that tactic of deleting a row, again, we're going to go to a good balance cell where the formula is good. And if I do that double click in the corner, it has now recopied the formula all the way down and everything's fine. So that's one way to delete a bad entry. I'm going to do undo and get that row back here. Here's another way. I mean, I could just mouse over each entry and just hit my delete key to get rid of it. Of course, now I've got this empty row, and what do I want to do with that? Well, I could fill it in with another entry, or I could use that same tactic of highlighting some cells, and then do a cut, and then come up here, and then do a paste, or as Excel reminds me, I can just simply hit the enter key and just move entries around. So that's a way of doing some deleting and moving of entries around. Now I do have one other suggestion that can work well, but before we're able to use the sorting feature here in Excel, there's one change that you should probably make in the spreadsheet, and I actually regret having this in my sample. And that's this the third row here has just got some hyphens or dashes in it. So I'm actually going to get rid of those dashes, and just to make sure that things are going to work correctly, my earliest date entry in the spreadsheet is 1/1. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat that same date in there. And so as long as I don't have that weird row with the hyphens in it, here's another great way to keep your checkbook in date order. And that's that, maybe I've got some transactions that occurred on January 6th and 7th. And rather than having to deal with inserting rows or cutting and pasting, here's what I could do. I could just come to the bottom here and type in 1/6 for a January 6th entry, and put in an entry here. Okay, and I'll come over here and also do maybe a 1/7 entry. So put that in. Maybe I had a natural gas bill. So again, we'll just put something in there. Okay, now I'd like my spreadsheet to be in date order. So here's what I can do. As long as I got rid of that funny row with the hyphens, I can come up to the drop down here on date and tell to sort oldest to newest. And that will just resort the spreadsheet so it's in nice date order, and I didn't have to worry with doing cutting and pasting or inserting or deleting and then fixing the formulas. And if this alignment here bothers me, I just click on that cell and choose the same sort of alignment, the align right, to make it look good. Okay, so that's a variety of ways of inserting, deleting, and also just resorting your checkbook spreadsheet to keep it nice and ordered.